Severe was the editor.
Oh, true.
At Back to Basics, and he was like, "These are cool. Do you do any other work?" And I was like, you know, the old story, fake it until you make it. Yeah. You can do anything. Then I started getting this time. I was like, what am I doing?
Talofa lava everyone, welcome to Taumafa Talks. I have a special guest with me, an amazing artist and photographer, and my oldest brother, Raymond Sagapolutele. Woohoo! Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for the food.
Raymond chose roast for our mea today, so we're going to have Brandy's roast. Woohoo! I always find it interesting because, you know, us two in different generation in our age gap. But we do have similarities that I find, which is what I like, you know, with our journeys. And like you said, you create art, you know, based on your lived experiences, and I do the same too. And for me, I loved how we came full circle when, you know, we went to Germany together. Yeah, I mean, that opportunity will always stick in my head forever. It's like the best trip that I've had. Not only because I got to go to Europe, like that was amazing, you know, first time in Europe. Didn't think I would ever get to go there, but I think what made it more special was, you know, the reason and being able to go together as siblings and as artists collaborating. And yeah, you know, going there to honor Mum, like I thought that was really cool. But yeah, do you want to talk about how you got that opportunity?
It's well, if I was to talk about that opportunity, I need to go right back to when I made that work. And that work was it was kind of my first real attempt at talking around being Samoan as an artist. But prior to that, with all my photography, it was around what I did as a editorial photographer, what I did in the graffiti world, photographing all the TMD guys, you know, traveling with them, doing all the concert work, and then just my street photography. I hadn't really dived any deeper around who we were as Samoans. So the first real attempt at doing that was that work I did with you and Mum. And that work meant, that work evolved because it was supposed to be one thing, and it was based around Mum and Mum's way of dressing. Because you know,
I didn't know this.
as each of us would leave home, Mum used to get really upset, you know, because her boys leave home. You know what Mum's like, she wanted to have us around.
Yeah.
So, when we left, we'd always, like, sometimes we'd forget clothes and Mum would keep them. And I remember sometimes coming over and Mum would be dressed in, like, maybe one of my t-shirts, or she'd have something of, but you know, the one that she always used to, excuse me, it was Mark's clothes that used to always crack me up, because I'd come over and Mum's sitting in the lounge with a Biggie Smalls t-shirt, one of his beanies. She's got she'd wear his lanyards from concerts and stuff. And she'd have this really weird hip hop style, you know, and she wasn't ashamed, you know, she was just like wearing this stuff because she missed her sons. So I wanted to photograph that. That's what I originally wanted to photograph.
Wow.
I wanted to do some shots of that, and then Mum kind of said, she wanted to try something else, so I said, okay. And we went to go and get her, and she had that pulutasi on, and she said she'll do a Sifa Samoa for me. And she picked up the music, and so I shot that. And I really wish I'd videoed it or filmed it.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But we shot it, and you know, Benjamin Work. Yeah, we played Ya Lava Lava. I can't remember the actual name of that song. We only did one take, so I set it up at Elliot's place. And we had the one light overhead. Mum was like, she was really funny. she came, like we picked her up, got her there, and Elliot and Livy and the others were all like, Rita, would you like some tea? And they made muffins and stuff. And Mum's like, ooh,
Yeah,
Mum's
excited.
Like, yeah. And she had that faux fur coat on, which always cracked me up. And she was having fun. They said, once we got set up, I said, let's go. We'll do the shoot now. We got the little radio, the CD in to play her song, and Ben was like standing out off camera, so Mum could hear the music. And I remember like I set the shot up. I got Mum to stand so I could meet her and get her the lighting right, and she just stood there looking at me. And I think you've seen a few photos. And then we took her coat off, and then we started playing the music, and she just changed. It was amazing watching her dance. And Ben was ayuliing from the side, which was hilarious. This 6'4" Tongan doing an ayuli from the side for Mum. And Mum just went, and as I was shooting and watching, I can remember crying. But yeah, that series of images has always been special. And so when we finished, we got Mum her jacket. She went back inside, had another cup of tea and more muffins, and that was it. But and then I set up to do your one, and you'd come back from Royal Family doing your practices.
I was so tired.
You were like, do I have to do this? I'm like,
I was sweaty
yes.
and like not dressed nice, like in my practice clothes.
You were just like,
But then as soon as we shot,
yeah, yours is just the same as Mum's, but different because obviously everything was different.
Street dance, yeah.
And so that's how those two images were made, and those two images kind of have been the foundation of all of the work that I've been making ever since. It's that connection to families, that connection to culture. Yeah, a couple of years ago I got approached by World Cultural Museum in Frankfurt.
That's amazing.
Christina Jeffrey had mentioned me to them from Tautai. And they looked at my work and contacted me and said, we'd really love to show this work as part of a bigger exhibition that they're running in 2018. And I'm like, sweet, what does that mean? And they said, we'll publish your work and fly you over for the opening and all this. I was like, ooh.
Like, yes, please.
Germany, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's how I ended up in Germany. That show was only supposed to go for 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, all the work that was in there would either be... the artist had to determine what they wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
But I said to them, destroy my work.
Right.
Because, I didn't want it to sit here, to stay in Germany. As I went to leave, they asked me again, are you sure you want the work destroyed at the end of this? And I kind of thought, what would Mum do? And I just said to them, look, I would be happy...
Give it.
As my gift to you for looking after me and being amazing hosts is to gift you the work.
Nice.
And they were really touched, and they said, but I said, one little clause. Can I come back and say goodbye at the end of the show?
Yeah.
And they were really keen, and they said, yeah, sure. When the show ends, you can come back, and and then it kind of got in my head, well, how do I actually say goodbye properly? And that's why I thought of you. And ask her if you wanted to dance one last time for Mum. Because when I made that work, Mum passed away 3 months after it. So that was actually her last ever Samoa that I'd see.
Yeah, it was.
So having you come back and work with me to do that was just a great way to bookend something that you were part of from the beginning.
So cool. Such a cool experience, and just the lead up. Being able to... I remember I asked you that, can I please bring...
Yeah.
So, you asked me and I would have just came by myself, but, prior to that, I've been working collaboratively with, Natalia and Lincia.
Yeah.
Most of my arts journey, and with the other girls, Faith as well. So it just felt more appropriate to see that with them too. So I'm really grateful that they said I could bring them as well.
But I was also grateful for the fact that, you were able to include not just essences of Mum in your practice, but also acknowledging, other people that you'd worked with, like Tupe. within the Suba.
Yeah.
But then getting to know Natalia and Lincia, who I consider sisters, crazy sisters. Do you remember when you guys got your artist fee? And like Jerry and Samson and Maria and I were out there like talking. And then we went Mick downstairs and we said, well, we're going to go check into our accommodation. What are you guys going to do? Because you guys were staying in the apartments at the museum.
Which is so cool.
And then it was like, what are you guys going to do? And it was like, shopping.
No, it was so funny when, us three had to go and collect our fees. And we were like, oh yeah, okay. I had an idea of what it would be because you had told me, but the girls, like I had told them briefly, but they...
You didn't tell them how much?
I did, but it went out of their head. Like they were just too excited to be there. So when they were receiving their fees, they couldn't contain their excitement. I was like, oh my goodness, like I was the one trying to be professional, like thank you. Like, I got it first. And then, Lindsay and Natalia got theirs, and Sia, how she is. Oh my god! Like getting so excited, I was like, this girl.
Calm
so
down.
that's when we saw you. We were like, we're going shopping. There was a time where we Ubered to the shopping mall.
You could have walked.
Yeah, I was so annoyed because it was on my card. We're like, let's Uber, and it took us like 20 minutes to get there, and then I think we asked Samson. Yeah, and he was like, oh, where'd you guys go? I'm like, oh, we went to the shopping mall. You know where people call it Disneyland? He goes, how'd you guys get there? I'm like, oh, we Ubered. He's like, it's like 10 minutes from me. You could have just walked. I was like, and the girl's like, oh no. It's like, oh no.
Because Samson and Jerry were awesome.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Those two would go off on their wanders and come back, and they would be like, we'd go, oh, where's a good place to get some coffee from? And they'll always know where to go.
Yeah.
It was awesome to have, this little group of islanders in the middle of Germany, or Frankfurt, running around and everyone looking at us going, what is wrong with these guys? Samson bouncing off of everything. Yeah. And then Jerry balancing him out with his steady, calming hand.
Yeah. Such a good team.
And Maria just like cracking the whip.
Yeah.
Continually.
She was so good. Such a good producer.
And so it was just, I wouldn't have, it would have been a completely different experience if I'd done it by myself. But having you guys there, especially after I went the first time, it was so much fun. And if I could do it again, I would do it again with that team. It was just, it was just something that for me was, like you said before, it was a chance for me to go back, but I'm going back bringing another generation through so that you guys get a sense of what's possible beyond the stages that we have here in Aotearoa.
Yeah.
And it's vital to me as part of my practice that we kaosi, that we look after the next generation coming through, and when you are breaking down these doors, or when you're opening doors to opportunity for yourself, you keep in mind that you bring others through with you. It's something that I said the previous generation with our uncle and a few others have done and continue to do.
Yeah, that Germany trip really opened my eyes that I wanted to, be able to bring people like what you did for us. Yeah, I had a good time of reflecting when I got back, and just thinking of the people that have helped me along the way, like Tsupe, Rosanna, Kat, even Paris as well from, when I was doing street dance, all these amazing women. I feel like I'm surrounded by such great people.
Well, you've definitely kind of carved your own path, but at the same time, there are so many people that look out and want to see you succeed. When I've done work with Sefa, they love you.
Sefa's done so much for me.
And Neil loves. This is the beauty of our family, is we've got all these. I talk about Johnny because he's a visual artist, but then we've got these dancers like Neil Yeremia and Sefa and Ari, who are our family as well.
We have a lot of artists in our family.
Yeah. And it's...
If we could explain everyone, it would take so long. We're very blessed to have a creative family.
And it's so fortunate that they understand the journey. And I worked with Neil earlier this year, with Black Grace documenting their work, and just seeing his, where he's come from and what he's done, and then with Sefa and watching Pacific, dance just grow, it's been amazing, and like I love catching up with Kat when I get the chance to talk with her. She's an amazing.
She's so amazing.
She's a very strong woman who knows where what she wants, and I think you have picked up off of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Rosanna, it's just Rosanna.
Yeah.
Roro's always going to be.
She's the bomb.
Yeah. She's amazing, but I definitely think there's something that we've got here that's great. And again, this comes down to that idea of, and I've talked to you about this before, around agency and understanding what your worth is. And so, whenever you're creating something, bear in mind that that's your intellectual property, and that you should always see it as something that you need to. When we went to Germany, and when I've been overseas, one of the things I've always been aware of is that our art is different. What we create is different. You can't get that anywhere else. So people want to see what we're doing, so we need to be able to go into those spaces and show them, but retain our agency and own what we're doing in those spaces. And this is why I always say it's great to do things in Aotearoa, which is a great nurturing space, but it's also a very small stage to work with.
Yeah.
If you go overseas, then you've got a bigger audience to work with. But all these principles that we've talked about, all these ideas that we've talked about around knowing your worth, understanding what is your intellectual property, retaining your agency, but also bringing others through. So where you go, bring someone else through with you, and then come back and share those experiences, so that more will come and more will have the opportunity.
Exactly.
And primarily, it comes down to, when it comes to a lot of the work that we make that is heavily anchored in our cultural identity, that work needs to come from us rather than an agent that works on behalf of us.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and talking about people that have been there for us, I wanted to also acknowledge our other brother, Mark.
Mark is
big inspo for me.
Mark has always been the first amongst us. And as an artist, as a musician, he's always sort of set the pace.
He definitely set it for us.
Long before we ever considered being artists, he was doing it.
Yeah.
And travelling the world and doing his thing. I always loved the memories of him when he went to New York, the first time he went to New York, and my all-time favourite image. And it's got nothing to do with any of the, it was Inspector Deck and all of them.
Which one is it? The one on the stairs?
No, Wu-Tang. Yeah, my all-time favourite image is him standing on the stoop. I think it was Harlem.
Yeah.
And it's snowing, and he's in jandals.
Yeah, he's doing slides.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cute.
And it's like, Southside!
Yeah.
He has always been someone that's driven and loyal. And the Decepticons are like our family as well. We grew up knowing them. And again, Mark's connection to the hip-hop world. That's how I got my start shooting for editorial. Because I did those photos of Mark.
Oh, cool!
And he rang me and he goes, I need publicity photos. I was like, yeah, and what are you calling me for? He goes, can I use the ones that you took?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, they're a bit. So I sent them. And Severe was the editor.
Oh, true.
At Back to Basics. And he was like, these are cool. Do you do any other work? And I was like, the old story, fake it until you make it. Yeah. Can do anything. I gave his son, was like, what am I doing? Like one of the first jobs, so that work that I shot for Mark got me work with Back to Basics magazine, and
so cool.
I became their concert photographer.
Yeah.
And like Jamie from TMD, who's one of my brothers, Deep One, he'd also shot for Back to Basics, but they brought me on board later on, and so I became the concert guy. I did one gig as a favour to a friend, and that was for Blind Spot, their final concert. And that was like, what am I doing? Just trying to figure out what I was doing with my camera.
Yeah.
And then Phil rang me and said, I need you to do the Slum Village gig.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. What am I doing? So I was looking up things online, trying to understand how you work shoot at night with no flash and all the rest of it. And I did the gig, and it was funny because it was a real enclosed space, and I did all my practice shots to get things right. And then I got really comfortable, and I was like walking around. Back then, and working in clubs and bars was good because generally the rule is when you're shooting concerts, it's 3 songs and then you get out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you do the first 3 songs and then you're out. And when you're working in pubs, in pubs and bars, you can pretty much, depending on what the manager wants, you can do whatever you like. So Slum Village, their manager didn't really say anything to me. I was just sweet. So I just kept taking photos, and I was like, God, I got a ton of photos of them. They were amazing. And then Zen Bar, it's like real small. I shot some Emmanuel Bundy leading up to it, getting him doing his thing and trying to get my lighting right. And then at the end of the night, I had a real good night. I was thinking, I'm the man. And I went to step back because you could step onto the stage, and I did, and you're allowed to. And I went to step back, but I tripped over the amp. So here's me thinking I'm cool, and I tripped over backwards, and I've got all my camera gear, and I'm just like holding it up, and I hit the ground. And I'm just like, shame! And all the punters are, oh, you okay, bro? And they just pick me up. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, okay, but was anything broken?
I didn't break anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all the concert stuff I've done over the years has been heaps of fun. I did it for nearly 10 years, but all of that wouldn't have happened had I not done that work with Mark. And so whenever Mark rings me and asks me to, help out, most of the time he doesn't even ask. I bug him, so can I get some shots of you guys? And so it's if it wasn't for Mark and where he was, I wouldn't have been able to sort of step up with my own photography sort of practice and move forward and have these crazy things, where I'm in different places shooting these artists from all over the place. And,
yeah, okay. For me, I feel really blessed because I'll be like, Raymond, can you take my photos? Mark, can you make my music? And it's just cool that we're there. We can just support each other, and help each other out wherever we can. I'm always like, Mark will just always like laugh at me. Like I'm like, can you just do this mix? Like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, but how I'm very like detailed. So I'm like, so at 0 to 0.41, and he's like, huh? And like he's like, okay, they're cool. And then I'm like, now can you just please? He's like, just call me. And he'll call me, and he's like, oh yeah, I get it. And it's just like, it's so cool, like just the process of, I get to work with him, and it's just like time we're hanging out, and then us two when you take photos of me. I guess for me, I'm very proud of us and our family. And of course, and our other 2 brothers. Walker's always like, you never mention me. I'm like, sorry, because I always just talk about the artists in the family. Whoops. But like to acknowledge our other 2 brothers as well, even though they're not in the arts.
Selma and Walker, they've been, I guess what you call our anchors.
Yeah, they really have.
They've always kind of brought us back to reality when we've needed it. And growing up with those 2 has always been an adventure. They're what we'd call the sporty ones in our family.
Yeah. I wasn't blessed in that department.
Walker's actually not a bad artist as well.
I like his drawing. Yeah.
In his own right, he's not a bad artist. But he's just one of these guys that you can always rely on. He's always steady, and Solme's the same. Yeah. And we've always been lucky that, whenever we've gotten too far ahead of ourselves, they've always reined us back in with a bit of easy on there.
Yeah. They've definitely helped and supported me behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing in lockdown? How's it been for you navigating?
Processing, being by myself. No, just focusing on work. I mean, I made a new work the other day, and that was a bit harrowing. Yeah. Just sort of trying to deal with grief. But other than that, I've been lucky to be running Zoom classes. I did that with a couple of festivals, which was amazing. So I love teaching photography. And these kids that we worked with, just incredible. Kids will always ground you, literally ground you.
Really will be honest with you, and yeah.
Any smoke that you think you're blowing around going, look how great I am, they're like, birds? Yeah. What is it? I don't get it. It's ugly. You're boring. Go away. And you're like...
Yeah.
But no, I did that. I've been working with 8 amazing photographers who are doing a course with 7 Academy over in the US. We're working with this photographer, Chris Morrison. He's amazing. He's hilarious, actually. And that's something that CNZ has helped put together. Cheers, CNZ. Appreciate the support. And
for this too. Shout out CNZ.
So just try to kind of get my head around when we come out of this and look at all the different maps that are the traffic light system, because I still have no idea how it works. But I did a couple of projects doing behind the scenes shots for a campaign to help with vaccinations, which was really cool. And the actual project is quite moving.
It really is. Yeah.
But yeah, it's with lockdown for all of us, it's trying to reshuffle, pivot, as they like to say, around what you're going to do as an artist or within your own practice. I'm lucky in that my practice can exist in the digital world.
Yeah.
But for friends of mine that are dancers, for one thing, they've had to try and figure out how to do things differently. Those of us that work in theatre and performance, sculptors, all of it's making's easy. It's the hard part is then how do you get this out? You can't have an exhibition with hundreds of people coming in to view the work. You can't have a performance with a packed house.
It's sad that we had these opportunities lined up and to stay home. Like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, they happened last year.
Yeah.
But last year when we came out, it was like, sweet. Seems like we're all going to be fine.
Yeah.
But then this year when it happened again, it was like, what?
And
then I'm looking at my calendar and just go...
Yeah, me too, like crossing out.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one where it wasn't actually a job, but I was supposed to see BTS. I'm still cut up. BTS performed yesterday and they're doing the other concert and I'm just not on Twitter. I'm avoiding. I was like, I'll block anyone. I don't want to see it.
I'll cut you if you tell me.
I'm just so cut up. Okay, we went off topic there. It's just... No. Do you have any advice for anybody out there who would like to do art or navigate their own journeys and what they would like to do? Any advice for anybody out there?
I don't know if I have advice as such, but I'd just say that if you're looking at going down that pathway, just be honest to yourself. What do you really want to do? And if that's what you want to do, own it.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to make work that you just want to sell, then make work you want to sell. Own that. Take that on board as being that's where you're at. If you wanted to go deeper into approaching things around the way you see the world, do that, own it. But also be mindful of the connections a lot of the work will have. The Samoan term is, your ngafa, your genealogy, know what you're connected to, know who you're connected to know where you are. Artwork has that same sort of thing, for me, in my opinion. When you create a work, it's part of who you are. If you create a work that's personal, then it's not just part of who you are, it's part of who you're connected to.